Welcome to another tutorial on PaloAlto Firewall. Today in this video, I'm going to show you how you can configure PaloAlto Firewall to decrypt the SSL connections from all the clients in your network. And later you can use that decrypted SSL connection to block the malware and to do URL filtering, to block certain downloads of malware from the malicious websites. So let's get started. Before starting, let me quickly explain you the network topology. On my screen, we have the PaloAlto Firewall. ETH1/1 is the WAN interface with an IP of 192.168.0.111. And we have the LAN interface, which is ETH1/3 with an IP of 10.10.10.111. And for example, here in this situation, I have a client, which is Windows Server with an IP of 10.10.10.110, which connects to the PaloAlto Firewall. And here in this scenario, PaloAlto Firewall will do the SSL decryption for all the traffic that is coming from the client machine, which is 10.10.10.110, and which is going towards the internet. So I have the basic configuration already in place. Let me quickly show you the configuration. This is my PaloAlto Firewall. If I go to the network, you can see my interface, Ethernet 1/1 in untrust zone, Ethernet 1/3 in trust zone, LAN interface, WAN interface. And these are the two zones that I already have, trust, untrust. And if we go to the virtual router, we have a static route pointing to our gateway. ETH1/1 is our WAN interface. 192.168.0.254 is our gateway device. So we have the static route as well. Next, we have the security policy, trust to untrust. This is the source, which is trust zone. And here in this example, I've taken any for the source addresses. Destination is untrust zone, address is any, application is any, and action is allow. Log at session start, log at session end. I'm not using any profile. Or we can try adding a profile. For example, let me quickly add a profile. And then antivirus, let's try to use the default profiles that we have. Vulnerability protection default, anti-spyware default, URL filtering default, file blocking, basic file blocking, wildfire analysis. Let's try to use all default profiles available. Click on OK. So now we have the policy in place, the security policy in place to allow the traffic from zone trust to zone untrust with the profile set for antivirus, vulnerability protection, anti-spyware, URL filtering, and file blocking. Next is the NAT policy. We already have the NAT policy configured. If you see here, the name of the NAT policy is out NAT, original packet, source zone is trust. Source address here is any. Destination address is again any. Destination zone is untrust. Destination interface is any. Service is any. Translated packet, I'm using dynamic IP and port translation. Address type is interface address, which is on Ethernet 1/1. With an IP of 192.168.0.111/24. So we have the basic configuration in place. Now let's try to check if everything is working fine and if we are able to access the internet from our Windows Server client machine as per the diagram. So here on my screen is the Windows Server machine, which is the client machine with an IP of 10.10.10.111. Let's try to access something. The gateway here is 10.10.10.111, which is our Palo Alto Ethernet 1/3. IP address on the machine is 10.10.10.110. Let's try to access something. So we can access Google and YouTube. So that means everything is working fine. Let us switch to the GUI. So now you can see here hit count is increasing. We can clear the counter as well. So you can see here the hit count is increasing. Same goes for the security policy. You can reset the security policy and then check to see if everything is working fine. Next comes the SSL decryption part. For that, you will have to first create a security profile and the CA certificate. Click on device, go to certificate management, click on certificate. So here in my case, I already have a CA certificate. So I'm going to import the same CA certificate that I have here onto the Palo Alto Firewall. Let me quickly click on import. We can name it as SSL Decryption. And we can select the file. This is the PKCS file. Personal information exchange format. Click OK. Let me change the format, PKCS12. Let us protect the certificate with a password. So now we have the passphrase entered. Let's quickly click on OK. So now you can see here we have the CA certificate imported. Click on it again. And here you will see few of the options. For example, we'll have to click on Trusted Root CA, because this is the Trusted Root CA certificate. And we have another option, for example, Forward Trust Certificate, Forward Untrust Certificate. So there are two categories of SSL connection. One for which the Palo Alto Firewall is already having the CA certificate. For example, if you are accessing google.com and if the google.com certificate is signed by a certificate authority, and that certificate authority is already in the Trusted Root store on Palo Alto Firewall, then you can use this particular option so that the Palo Alto Firewall uses this particular CA certificate to generate the server certificate on the fly while decrypting the SSL connection. And there is another option which is for forward untrust certificate. For example, if the destination that you're trying to reach out to, abc.com, and abc.com certificate is signed by a third-party CA certificate, which is not on the Trusted Root store on Palo Alto Firewall, then you can click on this option. In my case, I'm going to use single certificate for both forward trust certificate and as well as forward untrust certificate. But in For your scenario, you can have two CA certificates, for example, CA1, CA2, and you can use CA1 for forward trust certificate and CA2 for forward untrust certificate, so that if the certificate for the destination is not available on the PaloAlto Firewall, you can use the second CA certificate to generate the on-the-fly certificate while decrypting the SSL connection that we'll see in some time. So here in my scenario, for simplicity, I'm using the single certificate for both trust certificate and untrust certificate. Click OK. So now we have the SSL certificate. Usage is forward trust certificate, forward untrust certificate, trusted root CA certificate. Now we'll have to create a profile. Click on object, click on decryption profile. You can either use the existing one or you can create a new one. For example, let me create a new one. I have named it as SSL decryption, and you have numerous options available for SSL decryption, where you can block certain expired certificates, which is self-explanatory. For example, you can have this option as well, append certificate CN value to SAN extension. So you can adjust as per your requirement in your network. I'm going to keep it as default. I'm not going to block anything. No decryption. SSH proxy, this is the profile. SSL inbound inspection. SSL protocol settings. So you can set the minimum version as well as the maximum version. And you can select the key exchange algorithm, encryption algorithm, and authentication algorithm. I'm going to keep it as default. Let's quickly save this. So now we have the profile as well, the decryption profile. Now we'll have to go back to the policies section and then click on decryption there. Here we'll have to create the decryption rule. For example, let me name it as SSL decryption. And inside the source, you can click on add and click trust, because in our case, the traffic is going from trust to untrust. For simplicity, in my case, I'm going to add an address for my client machine. So my client machine is having an IP of 10.10.10.110. Source address. Source user any. Click on destination. You can select untrust and you can select any. So source is 10.10.10.110. Destination is untrust any. You can select any service URL category, click on option. So inside the option, you will have to mention whether you want to decrypt the connection or not. In my case, I'm going to click on decrypt. I'm going to select decrypt. And I'm going to select type as SSL forward proxy. And I'm going to select the decryption profile as the one that we have created in the last step, SSL decryption. So you can see here type is SSL forward proxy. So this is for the traffic from inside to outside, from your network to outside internet. And the other option is SSL inbound inspection, which is for the reverse proxy, for the traffic that is coming from the internet towards your firewall to the server, which is behind the firewall. So in our case, it is going to be for the traffic that is going out. So I'm going to choose SSL forward proxy. Click OK. So now we have the configuration in place. Important thing here, inside the certificate, if you click, you should always choose forward trust certificate and the forward untrust certificate for the destinations that the client will be reaching out to. So if the destination is signed by a trusted CA certificate, then wherever you will have this option checked, that particular CA certificate will be used for the generation of on-the-fly certificate, while the PaloAlto Firewall decrypts the SSL connection. And you can have two separate CA certificate for both the scenarios. In my case, I'm going to use same single certificate for simplicity. Click OK. Let's try to commit the changes. And there's one more thing what you can configure, which is the response page. So inside device, you have an option of response page. If you click on response page, you will see some of the predefined types. If you want any sort of notification on client's machine, on the client browser, when they try to access some of the destination, well, you can configure that. For example, SSL decryption opt-out page. This is disabled right now, so I'm going to click that thing. I'm going to enable SSL opt-out page, which is going to show some notification on client machine. And if you do not want any sort of notification on client machine while the PaloAlto Firewall is doing the SSL decryption, you can disable this. Let me try to enable this as well for testing. So now we have everything in place. Let us try to commit the changes. So these are some of the licenses missing, so we don't have to really worry about that. So now the changes are implemented. Let me try to quickly switch to the client machine and check few things there. Hit count is 0. NAT hit count, let me quickly reset it. Security policy, let us reset this as well. Now let's try to switch to the client machine. So this is the client machine. Let us try to double click and restart the let us try to access. Okay, before that, I do not have the CA certificate imported here on this machine. So I'm going to get some sort of notification. This is the PaloAlto Firewall. And there are some commands available to check the certificate in use. The command is so this is the command. So show system settings SSL decrypt certificate will show you the SSL certificate that you're using for the SSL decryption. Here in my case, you can see the one that we have imported, subject, issuer, serial number, and everything. So you can use this command to make sure you're using the correct certificate for the SSL decryption. And this particular certificate is not imported onto the machine. And we will do that in the next step. Let us try to access some of the websites. We might have to clear the cache. Let me quickly do that. So I've cleared all the sessions on the PaloAlto Firewall from that particular machine so that we can force the traffic to hit the decryption rule. So this is the Windows Server client. Let us try to access few sites. So you can see here on my screen, I'm getting some sort of notification. This is because of the SSL decryption and because the PaloAlto Firewall is giving me a different certificate while I'm accessing youtube.com. And this is the certificate that was generated using the CA certificate that we imported onto the trusted root store on PaloAlto Firewall. For example, click on Advanced Settings, scroll down, click on View Certificate. If you see here, the issuer name is the one that we have imported. So this is the CA certificate that we imported onto the PaloAlto Firewall, and this certificate was altered by the PaloAlto Firewall using the CA certificate that we imported. So what we can do is we can click on download the certificate, which I already have it, I guess. Let me try to check the downloads. So this is the certificate, I guess. So if you see here, this is the same certificate that we are getting while accessing the youtube.com or google.com. So what we can do is we can import this certificate to the browser trusted root store so that we don't have this notification coming up again and again. So you can see the matching information. Let us do one thing. Let us try to import this particular certificate. Click on Settings, Privacy and Security. Come down to the Certificate section, View Certificate, Authorities. Click on Import and select the certificate from the downloaded certificate list. This is the same certificate, by the way, so you can select it as Trust the CA to identify the website or Trust the CA to identify email user. You can click on View as well to view the information. Click OK. Click OK, yeah. So we have the certificate imported onto our browser trusted root store. Now let's try to close this and retry accessing the websites. So you can see here, I am not getting any sort of notification because I've added the CA certificate to the trusted root store. So if you select this option, click on this, you will see it as verified by SUMIT. And this is the same certificate that we actually imported. Might take some time because the connection is getting intercepted by the PaloAlto Firewall. So on the PaloAlto Firewall, using the command line, you can verify a few of the information to make sure that everything is working fine. Let me just show you everything on your GUI first. So this is the GUI of the PaloAlto Firewall. If you see the security policy, you can see the hit count increasing, which means everything is working fine. NAT count is again increasing. Decryption rule, you can see the hit count 475, which means the traffic is actually hitting this rule. Let us try to get back to our CLI access. So this is the CLI access. So one of the command to check the certificate in use for the SSL decryption is this: show system settings SSL decrypt certificate. And you can use other option as well. For example, you can use settings here to check the settings, the profile settings. So this is the certificate cache for the destinations that we have accessed from the client machine. Google.com, which was altered by the PaloAlto Firewall. You can use other option as well. For example, I can check the memory utilized by this particular operation. You can see current entries 21, allocated 80, freed 59. And you can check the session as well. Using the command source show session all filter SSL decrypt. Yes, and then you can use the command source, put the IP address of the client, hit enter. You can see here the information about the session from the client machine, which is getting intercepted by the PaloAlto Firewall, which is for the SSL decryption. So this is the command. You can see application WebSocket, state active. Let us try to access malware file. So I'm going to access this particular test site, which is for the testing of malware, viruses. And we can quickly go back to the PaloAlto device and check. You can see here all the SSL connections which are getting intercepted and which are getting decrypted by the PaloAlto Firewall. Let us try to download some of the files, and we have the profile already configured, so I'm hoping that this will stop me from downloading some files. So you can see here, virus spyware download blocked. This is because of the reason that we have the security policy and we have used the profile here inside the action. So this is the reason why it is getting blocked. And because we have the response page configured, so that is the reason why we see that information on the client machine regarding the SSL decryption. Let me try to download some other thing. For example, the zip file. Again, it is getting blocked. You can see. If I remove the profile from the policy, I should be able to download that particular file. Let me quickly do that. From the actions, I'll select none, click OK, commit, confirm. I might have to remove the cache if it is still getting detected or blocked. Let me try to switch back to client machine. Let us try to access it again. So you can see here, I'm able to download now. I'm able to download all the files after I remove the profile. That's all in this particular tutorial. If you have any question, do leave them in the comment section. I'll try to answer them. And at last, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.